in Nigeria. Nigerians want that, but it's not my cup of tea. You can just say Bennett here, but it's good enough, man.
Good evening.
The light, I can see a ray of light. Do I have too much light, or is it reflecting badly?
No, we're cool with that.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of our program here on Newsband Television. Today we are discussing Osun governorship elections, the Petition Tribunal judgment that was given, and then its implications for the 2023 general elections. Preparatory to these general elections, Nigerians have done all they've been told to do. They've been told to go and queue up and obtain your PVC. Some have complied. They've been told to register, get your PVC. Some have complied. And as of this evening, INEC has extended the deadline for the collection of PVCs, even while the complaints about issues regarding PVC collection are ongoing. But as we count down to the general elections, an interesting twist have been turned in by the judgment given by the Osun 2022 Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Osogbo, which delivered its judgment today. And to help us unpack that judgment and its implications on the 2023 general elections, especially the political implications, we'll be discussing with Chief Petition, who is now making another comeback on the Newsband Television. Chief Petition, FCA rather, is a chartered accountant and the governorship candidate of the AA in the Anambra 2021 governorship elections. Good evening and welcome to our program, Chief.
Good evening, Christian. Once again, I'm delighted to be speaking to Nigerians on your platform.
So let's start with the preparations for the 2023 elections. INEC has continued to update Nigerians and reassure Nigerians on its preparedness to hold a sufficiently free, fair, and credible elections. And up to this moment, there are complaints about PVC collection. So have you had complaints about those PVC collections in your area?
Yes, you have them everywhere. But you see, we have problems with our people. We clamor for the right person to lead us. And just doing the bit that we have to do to make that possible becomes a Herculean task. You find in so many polling units, PVCs, newly registered PVCs not collected. And you wonder why people will queue for hours to register. And then once the card is out, then there's this apathy about collection. I'm not even talking about apathy about voting. So you wonder what's wrong with us. Now, thank God, INEC has once again extended the deadline for collection by a week or so, if I'm right. And it will not surprise me if they don't take advantage of it and wait for the last 24 hours to gain all filing to get it at the same time. So I don't know what's wrong with us. We say all the right things and do all the wrong ones at every level, both at the leadership level and the followership level. And often you find that the reason why we've been in this mess is actually not the leaders, but the followers, the led. Because if we are serious enough and desirous enough to get the right kind of leadership, it's possible, it's doable, there's an opportunity now. But we're, it's like we're not serious about, taking advantage of this situation. I pray this time is different. I pray enough people will collect to make a difference. And I'm hopeful, given what we see playing out elsewhere in all the political campaigns, that what we're praying will happen, will still happen based on the number of people already in possession of their PVCs.
Let's stay on the issue of the PVCs before we move into the substance of our conversation this evening. Because like you rightly mentioned, there is a people component to this equation, but also there is the leadership component to this equation. There are people who, like you mentioned, queued up to register, but are unwilling to go and pick up their PVCs for whatever reason. We don't know what those reasons will be, so we continue to encourage those people to go and pick up their PVCs. But again, we have seen people who file out, who go to do everything they were told to do. They go to the local government office of INEC. They say, oh, we can't find your PVC. Come back tomorrow. Come back next week. It hasn't been printed. And there are others. You go to the local government office. They refer you back to your ward for the ward coalition. You go to the ward coalition. They toss you back to the local government coalition. So you are being tossed around like a brick, like a ping pong. And these are complaints we've been hearing from ordinary Nigerians. And again, the issue of PVC distribution, we've seen logistical challenges on the part of INEC. Even if you extend by a factor of 10 days, 1 week, 1 month, without supplying enough staff, for instance, because you know that the PVC collection is a manual process. You have to manually sort through the batches and get the PVC of individual prospective voters. So when you have 2 people, for instance, in a given polling unit, sorting out the PVCs, or possibly 3,000 or 4,000 people, how many people can they sort out in a day? And how many days are you extending it? So I see that there's a followership side of it, but there's also leadership side of it. Could you tell me what the leadership of the various political parties, especially your, I won't say now political party, your campaign is doing to engage with INEC to sort out with these logistical issues so as to make sure that every eligible Nigerian who is indeed willing to pick up his or her PVC is enabled and able to do that?
Okay, my previous comment was based on your question of what was going on in my area. So I narrated what, of course, was going on in my area, apathy in terms of collection. But we've seen enough reports to know that that's not the major problem. Elsewhere, people turn up, especially in Lagos, to pick up their PVCs, and they end up spending the whole day going back and not getting them. And you've actually answered the question, or sort of thrown more light into that problem. Now, INEC, we've been engaging over the weeks. They know they get all these reports. I get them. My colleagues get them in the campaign, and we actually are interfacing with INEC to try to deal with this issue, because it's not in INEC's interest to have a faulty or a flawed election. They want to get it right too. I believe they want to get it right. But you see, INEC is populated by Nigerians, by individuals who are also corrupt. Maybe not at the top level, but at the lower level, at the least level, if you can put it that way, handing out these PVCs, because you get reports of people paying in some instances to get their PVC. I mean, I don't think I'll blame the INEC chairman or the directors or the recs for that kind of thing. They wouldn't have sanctioned that, I'm sure. So we have a problem, and we've presented these issues to INEC, and I'm sure they're looking at them and trying to, with the extension, to provide more people, more hands on deck to ensure that these PVCs are collected. And where the PVCs, we've also seen reports of PVCs being discarded on the roadsides and rubbish, garbage, and rivers and all of that. So that where these PVCs are not found, the voter has enough time to have extras or replacements printed. I mean, if you lose your bank ATM card, you can go to the bank and get a new one. So for something as crucial as electing the president or the governors, in some instances, senators and all of that, the rest, we should go out of our way to ensure that no one loses the chance of taking part in this thing. But for us, for the followers, for the voters, the electorate, we should also play our part. There's no point in INEC being in a location for the whole day and no one turns up. It just wouldn't make sense anymore. This is no longer a joke. It's beyond a joke now.
Oh, okay. You mentioned PVCs that were dumped by the roadsides, picked up in the gutters, and all of those things. And as of today, there is no confirmation that INEC is reprinting or reissuing those PVCs. But there is a matter in court. I believe that the judgment will be delivered on the 30th of this month that is trying to compel INEC to update its guidelines to allow people whose PVCs were destroyed while in the custody of INEC. The quotation and the stress is while in the custody of INEC, these PVCs were destroyed, to compel INEC to allow those people to vote by merely supplying the last 5 digits of their VIN number, which is the virtual identification number or something like that. And that judgment will be on the 30th, but without subjecting or without prejudice to the court as to what they might decide. Is your party engaging INEC as to make sure that these PVCs that were destroyed or lost while in the custody of INEC, that the owners of those PVCs are not disenfranchised in any kind of way?
Okay, we're trying to make sure that everybody will ultimately get their PVCs. That's what's important. If you live in my own judgment, and this is not the party position, this is my personal judgment, and this is not the campaign position. In my humble opinion, if you leave it to people, to INEC to decide who to vote and who not to vote by saying, oh, my card was lost in your position and all of that, it's going to be very open to abuse. You're leaving a loophole for election riggers to take advantage of and to perpetrate their heinous electoral crime. So I don't think, I think it will be abused. I don't think I personally will subscribe to that. Let us have people get their PVCs. That's what I'll go for. In the event that there are people who unfortunately may not get, and then you know that these are new voters who are likely to vote for the Labour candidate, if our speculation is right, and if our projection is right, even at that, I don't think I want to see a situation where anybody votes without a PVC, because it's just like bypassing the old card reader, incident forms, and people will now abuse it to, sort of produce fake election results. We don't want to see that. If it is one person that has a PVC, let that one person vote. And that's why it's very important for you to go and get your PVC and not rely on the last 4 digits of your PIN number or whatever. I don't want, that's a lazy way of dealing with this problem.
I believe you found time to, now we're heading to the subject of our discussion this evening. I believe you found time to read either the judgment of the Court of First Instance, in this case, the Osun 2022 Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, or at least read the summary of the judgment. And what do you make of the judgment? Let's start with that.
Okay, I don't have any view on judgments. Number one, I'm not a lawyer. I'll concentrate on the—
Hello, can you hear me?
I'm a chartered accountant. I'll concentrate on the political implication. And of course, I'll give a view. And I'll say something about the, from, sort of my perception. I believe what happened was that there was a discrepancy between 2 BVAS reports. How can that happen? I'll get to that, what I believe happened. I also believe that as a result of that discrepancy, that there was overvoting in over 700 polling units. And you know that once overvoting happens in any polling unit, the whole result of that unit is cancelled. I mean, that's a given. So that's what has happened. And after the cancellation of 700 forms, EC8A, that contained those election results, I think Oyetola was adjudged to have won. Now, how could this have happened, that there was overvoting? And how could it have happened that this almighty BVAS will give 2 conflicting printouts? Let me tell you how BVAS works. My understanding of it, we used it in our own election. BVAS accredits voters with the PVCs. So before voting starts, you already know the number of voters are accredited. After voting, the counting is done, and the results entered in INEC form known as EC8A. And the result you hear declared at the end of every election is a collection of those polling units EC8As. That's what is declared. BVAS doesn't have a facility for you to input any result. All you do is to upload the picture of the EC8As. Okay, so you can't type in APC has scored 100 votes, Labour Party 200, PDP 1 or whatever. It just won't happen. So it's just a picture. And the way the machine works is that once you upload, you cannot retrieve it. You cannot retrieve it. You cannot change it. You cannot cancel it. But that result may not get to the INEC server real time if there is no network. It will wait for the network to come before the server can upload it at the INEC end. What this means is that it works a bit more like the WhatsApp. You send a WhatsApp message, even if the person is not online, it leaves your phone. And when the person is online, it drops. The only thing about WhatsApp is that it can be sort of retrieved or corrected or canceled or withdrawn, which you can't do with the BVAS machine, which is good that you can't do it, because if you could do it, it will also be open to further manipulations. So that's what it is. And at the end of the result, the election, the result was declared, a delegate was declared, the PDP candidate. APC questioned it, sought to get the printouts of BVAS reports from INEC, and compared it with the EC8A forms, and found out that in over 700 of those polling units, there was overvoting. 30 days later, the PDP legal team also produced a report that I also believe to be authentic from INEC, showing printouts that backed the result declared. The one APC produced, obviously authentic, the judges relied on it, was showing something else. I believe, as an accountant, that what has happened was the cutoff point when those results were printed from Beavers were different. I think that APC got theirs probably a few days before all the results came in. That's the only assumption I can make. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any discrepancy. But what does that tell you? And what's the implication for the next election? The implication, number one, is to ensure that when you vote, be there to ensure that the right result is announced and that the results tally, or obviously will not be more than the number of accredited voters. That's the first one. And ensure that that is the result uploaded. Once you've done these two things, the rest is out of your hands. But not much can go wrong after that, because this INEC, present INEC, I trust that yes, they can give you a printout based on the date you want it, but the printout they give you will be the authentic one and not a forged one. I don't believe anybody forged the Beavers report printout. I don't believe anybody forged the EC8As. I don't know if that was done or not. But what I did believe happened was that these printouts were taken at different points of the process, and one was probably showing a fuller picture, and the other one showing the picture as at the cutoff date, as you have in a balance sheet in any accounts. Christian, I can't see you. Are you still online? I'm blabbing to make sure to see if you can come back online, but I can't see you. I don't know if anybody's still.
Sorry, my network keeps coming on and off. I'm trying to sort it out, and so okay. I didn't hear a substantial part of your response. So Biko, pardon me if I ever repeat a question that you have mentioned earlier. That is right. But because I think I heard you say Beavers.
Yeah. Hello?
Oh, okay. So it is fair to say that Beavers was put on trial in Osun, and from the two judgments, the majority judgment, according to the two learned justices, the Beavers was found wanting. And you also talked about, I believe, about possible technical tampering of Beavers' report, because the report of July 17 was substantially different from the report of August 27th. So do you know what accounts for these discrepancies in Beavers issuing different reports at different times?
Okay, I already dealt with it in what I said, but let me just repeat, because obviously you failed to hear me. I don't believe anybody tampered with the Beavers reports. I believe that both reports were correct. What accounted for the difference in the figures was probably the difference in the dates of the printout. That, given the cutoff period when the APC got their own printout, the Beavers report was not a complete one. That's the only thing I can assume happened. I was not in court. I didn't hear anything canvassed. Even if I was in court and heard what was canvassed, I'm not a lawyer, like I said. But from my knowledge of my profession, I believe that the only thing that could have happened was that the printouts were done at different dates, which you confirmed, and that each of those dates, the results were different, not because there was any tampering, but because one was more complete than the other. The information on that.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question goes this way. What if it happens that the Beavers machine report was printed after the PDP got their result? What could have been the reason behind the discrepancy?
Okay, let me repeat what I've said the previous 2 times. Okay. The only thing I believe would have happened was that the discrepancy was based on the fact that the printouts were done at different times. In other words, the first printout wouldn't have had all of the information uploaded at the time. And that by the time the second printout was done, all of the information would have been in. Now, it was now left to the judges to decide which of the two reports to rely on. The previous one, which I believe was an authentic report, or the second one, which I also believe was an authentic INEC report, but it was for the judges to now interpret and work out why there was a difference in figures. And they came to their own judgment.
Oh, okay.
So until a competent
let me stay on this Beavers report.
Upturns that, yes. We'll have to rely on that judgment, yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. The unsynchronized Beavers data that was extracted just a day after the election says that 744 polling units had issues of overvoting. The synchronized Beavers report that was issued August 27th says that these overvoting occurred in only 6 polling units. And so you had the Beavers, which was advertised as a system that will check all these things. And then it's now found in Ekiti, Osun rather, to at least maybe not the Beavers, but maybe the people who are working with the Beavers. But you have one report saying that there were incidences in 744 polling units, and you have one report saying, no, these incidences are only in 6 polling units. And so the 2 justices picked one, and then the dissenting judge also picked one. So when you have 2 reports, INEC is at liberty to choose. My question will be, is Labour Party and their agents able to look at the court proceedings, not just the court judgment now, the court proceedings at the tribunal in Osun, so with a view to train their polling agents and their various coalition agents as to what they would do when they are deployed on the election day?
Okay, not just Labour Party, I'm sure all the parties are doing the same thing. Labour Party has a great legal team of sound minds, and we've always reviewed every technicality, every law that will affect the outcome of this election. You know, we're very serious in this election to win it. We're not in this to take part, for a good fight. We're in it to win it. But let me go back to the point that I have made, which is still not being picked up by you. I don't think you picked it up. Either you're not picking it up, or that I'm not explaining it well. I don't believe Beavers failed. Beavers did not fail. I believe, once again, you use the word synchronized and unsynchronized, that what happened was that after all of the results came in and the machine was put to the test to give a printout, the printout that came out eventually, the synchronized one, gave a better picture. This was why you had a dissenting judgment. It was not for the judges in this case who gave the judgment to do the work of PDP lawyers or PDP legal team. Okay, they chose to rely on the APC printout, Beavers report. It was not for them. And in fact, the issue for determination there was which of these 2 reports do we rely on. So it just came to that, down to that. So what does this tell us? And what does it tell INEC? This Beavers thing is still work in progress. It's still a process being learned, studied, and will be perfected. What this should mean going into this election is that, and going forward, is that INEC should be careful in giving printouts if they need more time to synchronize the Beavers machine, so that any report they give should be authentic and should be the only authentic report from them. Not giving one report today and a week later another one saying, oh, by the way, we didn't synchronize the earlier one. This is the synchronized one. The court wouldn't have the time to be waiting for you to do all of that when the case was already in court and proceeding. So, maybe the Court of Appeal will take a different view and upturn it, I don't know. Or maybe the Supreme Court will get up to Supreme Court. But the other implication that I want to actually dwell on is the political implication of the next election. Because as we speak, Adeleke is still the governor of Osun State, still on seat. And will not vacate that seat until the Supreme Court speaks on this matter. And before the Supreme Court will speak on this matter, the election would have been over. So I don't see a real effect of this judgment, any on the upcoming election of next month. So the only thing is that we learn from it and make sure that any flaws are perfected and corrected. Because if you want to win an election and you believe it is winnable, you're not worried about any authenticity of the Beavers machine, because you know that any printout should authenticate the win. It's as simple as that. The other thing I want to say is this, that in this election, Labour Party were the underdog. The party is the underdog. P2B is the underdog in this election. The incumbent and the defending champion is Tinubu. So he's the man to beat. And to knock out a champion is not going to be easy. You have to knock him out real good. You don't expect to defeat him on points. So I am looking for the situation where the euphoria, the frenzy you're seeing in the present campaign of Mr. P2B bears out on election day on the 25th of February. So that when we win this election, when P2B wins this election, when Labour Party and Nigerians, majority of Nigerians win this election, taking power back to the people, that it is done with such a wide margin that the issue of overvoting in one or two places won't upturn anything. We just want to win it and win it in one go and not in the runoff.
Christian, please, this is Egbe Martins. Can I please interject here before we continue? Please, if you don't mind. Ben, I appreciate everything you have said so far. Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, that would be against our protocol, but let me indulge you for just 30 seconds.
Yeah, because there's something I've been watching the Osun issue on television and everywhere, trying to find out exactly what is going on there. And it is not clear to me at all. I'm a very controversial person. First and foremost, I have no evidence that both sides are correct or wrong. Why was INEC not called as a witness to this case? That's my first question. And if that question is no, then I can categorically say that the judges were paid off to give their judgment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Martin.
Can I make a comment on that? Can I make a comment on that?
Well, I would have loved to fact check him before you make a comment, but if you want
I can say something. What I will say won't even have anything to do with fact checking. What I will say to Martin is this: whether INEC was called as a witness or party to the case or not, would have been dependent on the parties, APC or PDP. If they fail to do that, tough luck. But secondly, and more importantly, whenever a judgment goes against anybody, it is easy to say that there was an inducement. The judges were corrupt, they were bribed. I don't want to go down that lane. If the court took the wrong decision, it will be very easy and very glaring to overturn it at the Court of Appeal. So let us not lose so much sleep. Our judiciary is being tested, our democracy is still being tested, and the building blocks are being put together. So we'll learn from this, and we'll get better and stronger at the process. This process only started since '99, and so far so good. I don't think I'll worry so much, not because Labour Party is not affected, but because number one, our election will not be affected, like I said. But secondly, there's enough time, and this is just the court of first instance. There are two further courts to look at it and on appeal and take a judgment, one way or the other.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that. It was just to clarify that Mrs. Abimbola Olajungaye, who is a deputy director in INEC in charge of ICT, was called as principal witness one in this matter, and then she led her testimonies. But that leads me to my question to you, sir. Nigeria, yes, has made substantial progress in election management, from outright annulment in '93 to snatching of ballot boxes through thugs in '99 to manufacture of fictitious votes in 2003 and 2007 to possibly going to the Supreme Court to snatch ballot boxes via Imo States. And today, we're in a process where, from what I've heard you say today on our platform, you are demonstrating substantial, or rather implicit confidence on the systems and processes that will be deployed by INEC. And my question to you, is your confidence on INEC systems and processes anchored on something substantial, or is it anchored on the press statements and press releases by INEC?
Okay, something substantial, because you know that I just came out of an election process in Anambra. And during that process, I encountered INEC closely. Like I keep saying, election is not a one-day process. It is not what happens on the 25th of February that will matter so much, that will determine who becomes president. That is the day the election will hold. But there's a process before that time, and the process before that time will impact on what happens on the day. And the process after that day will also impact on the sustainability of the result, like you've seen in Osun, that the process after upturned the result. What do I mean by that? In our own time, INEC carried the parties along, the stakeholders along, had many meetings with everyone, even with the candidates. And on each occasion, they stated what they would do, and they did exactly that in Anambra State. Before Anambra State, I encountered INEC in Ondo. Then I campaigned for Governor Keredolu to win his second term, his re-election. INEC on that occasion also didn't fall far short of So after Anambra,
if it's similar like this, it's not like any comparison.
Obinna, could you please mute your microphone so that you don't interrupt our guest while he's speaking?
Okay. So after Anambra, we had the Ekiti election. You saw what happened in Ekiti. Then Osun we're now talking about. So my confidence in INEC comes from the fact that I've encountered INEC real time closely, and that on each occasion, they have not failed to do what they have promised Nigerians they will do. This, what has happened in court, is not a reason for me to lose that confidence, because like I said, there were two printouts, there were two results from INEC, or two reports, not results, two reports. There was only one result from INEC, but two reports from Beavers. And those two reports were giving conflicting figures. Precisely, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm an auditor. So that's why I can actually understand how these things can happen. The earlier one was printed on a different date, unsynchronized, and the later result was a fuller one, a later date, different figures, or fuller figures, not even different, more complete figures, synchronized. So both were correct. It was now down to the judges to decide which one to rely on. And the court will not give you what you have not asked for. I don't know what was canvassed and what was asked for. So the result, like I said, is where we find ourselves today until the Court of Appeal says otherwise.
Let me ask some further questions. Thank you. Let me ask some further questions on this, because that synchronization data or the synchronization process is not a pretty straightforward process. For instance, even the judges acknowledged that Mrs. Abimbola, who was the principal witness for INEC, could not clearly answer the questions. And in the lead judgment, the lead judges said, the said conduct of the respondents, especially the first respondent, in bracket, the first respondent in this matter is INEC. So especially the conduct of INEC, I will now replace anywhere I'm quoting them, but anywhere they put first respondent, I'll replace it with INEC so that it's easier for our listeners to understand. So I start from it again. The said conduct of the respondents, especially the first respondent, INEC, amounts to tampering with official records. The conduct of the first respondent in the said election under consideration has produced multiple accreditation reports, contrary to its avowed declaration to conduct free, fair, and credible elections on the basis of one man or one woman to one vote. The said conduct of officials of the first respondent, that is INEC, as shown in this judgment, makes the proactive decision of Eneke Edibed in the novel, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, very instructive. In the said novel appear these words: men have learned to shoot without missing, and the Eneke has learned to fly without perching. Consequently, the judges were now prescribing, consequently, to forestall a manipulation of Beavers machines in the conduct of elections in Nigeria by the first respondent, the presiding officers at the polling units and other key staff of the first respondent, that is INEC, should have on the vest worn by them during the conduct of elections 1, an electronic device embedded in the said vest, which will have audio, video, and other data and information transmissible to a server domiciled with either the headquarters of the police force, NIGECOM SARS, or the Office of the National Security Advisor, independent of the first respondent, which is in this case, INEC. According to them, the data stored on the server of any of the said offices will be a resource material for investigation and possible prosecution of any infraction that may occur in the use of the BVAS machines at the polling unit level during the conduct of the election. So the two learned justices were of the opinion that what happened and what accounted for the synchronized data, they called it amounted to tampering with official records. Because while INEC is insisting it is synchronizing data, the synchronization of data is not a pretty straightforward process, and it could mean one to become two and make two to become one. And if the land justices are saying that what happened amount to tampering of official
I think we lost him again.
Yeah. There's only. Can I come in? Can I say something here?
I believe so, for the benefit of those waiting for him.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Yes, because I think while we're waiting for him, it might be an idea to.
Oh, okay, I'm back. Please, at what point did it cut off? Could you recall?
We hardly
you
heard.
heard?
You were talking about the justices and the reasons their judgment, what they said. But I think there's enough there for me to come in, if you don't mind. Do you want me to come in? There's something I want to say about what you were saying.
I can't even hear you.
So this is one of the reasons we have to get P2B, because this is not rocket science.
Yeah.
At all.
Let's allow Mr. Etiaba to continue, please.
Okay. What I wanted to say was simply this. Christian was reading out the judgment of the court and what the judges, the comments of the judges. Whenever a judge or judges give judgments, they will always justify whatever their position is with words, a lot of words, explaining why they arrived at their judgment. So I'm not too worried about sort of what they said and whether they were too hard on Mr. A or B or C or whatever. But the point I wanted to make is this. The judges were prescribing the presiding officers, INEC officials being wired up, basically. And it shows you the problem we have, that as much as any machine can be foolproof, those machines will still be operated by Nigerians and Nigerians who are prone to be bought, in quote. I'm not saying it happened in this case, but we know that these things do happen. In England, for instance, and let me also say this to listeners, that our election is technically 100 times more advanced than the elections here in the UK. Let us bear this in mind. So even if you wire people and rig them with all manner of bugging devices and all of that, a corrupt human being is still a corrupt human being who deliver a rubbish result. In UK here, nobody uses any. The thing is too mechanical. It's just a pencil and pen and the paper, a table. You just go there, tick your cross against the name you find there, submit it. Most of the people there will be old women who will pick it from you, old men, retirees, retired people who are nothing better to do with their time than to collect those ballot papers and count them. And the result is announced. There is no police, there is no army, There is no intimidation. There's no ballot box snatching. But all of these things, with all the monies we're spending on technology and in policing these things, we're still getting this. So it's down to the people. This human failings and human failure that we're experiencing in our elections in Nigeria, and not how technical or how much device we have, to get people to do the right thing. Anybody who is bent on doing the wrong thing will do the wrong thing. It doesn't matter how much you police them. That's what I want to say. So the judges prescribing these things, all well and good, but at the end of the day, it'll still be down to those people who we're here are being bought. That will still be wired up. They'll probably turn off the whole thing or find a way to ensure that the system crashes on the day, so they can, for just those few hours, so they can do what they want to do. It's a mess.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Atway, please. Can you come on board?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, and then I'm sending my questions via the chat just so that it's better.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I just have a bit of a concern. I know that you said you are confident in the INEC process, but then you've also said when the unsynchronized result was called, it was one person, and then the synchronized result is somebody else. Is that then saying in essence that if, for example, they call the first result and it is P2B, then they go back and come back with unsynchronized results, and God forbid bad thing, they say it's somebody else. What happens to us then?
Okay, these are lessons we are learning from this process. Like I say, it's an ongoing process and we learn lessons from it. But once INEC makes a pronouncement, that pronouncement stands. Like in this case, Adeleke is still the governor until the Supreme Court says otherwise. Okay, so if the court, for instance, says it is, the INEC says on election day it is P2B, P2B remains the president-elect. Okay, and will be sworn in so long as the Supreme Court doesn't say anything to the contrary. Okay, now you have to understand that in any election in Nigeria, it will end up in court anyway. Whether P2B is elected or P2B is not elected, it will still end up in court. That's the nature of Nigerian elections. So I come from a legal family, a legal background, just I didn't want to read law. I have 6 lawyers in my family, 2 of them senior advocates of Nigeria. So I'm not scared of what the court says or going to court.
Okay,
so it will still end up in court, whether Peter wins or not, and we believe Peter will win, and we believe APDP will go to court, we believe APDP will go to court, but it will now then be up to the judges in court to decide whether Peter, in that case, would have been rigged, or whether he won fair and squarely. And if I know Peter and his campaign and what we're doing, we're not planning to rig anything. We're planning to win fair and square. That's why this man is campaigning, tirelessly. You see him today is in Borno, tomorrow is in Port Harcourt, by the evening is in Lagos. So other people are planning to rig the election, if you must know.
I know. The other side of my question then is, by law, which result is the final result? Is it the synchronized or the unsynchronized?
Whether synchronized or unsynchronized, the final result is the one that INEC announces.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Take a different view after that. Yeah.
All right. It's okay. Chima not yet back. All right. Mr. Fejere, please.
Good evening to everybody. May God bless every one of us for the good work you guys have been doing. We'll appreciate. But there's something I saw yesterday that baffles my imagination concerning PDP. Have been saying, the INEC chairman have been saying they want to make sure this election is not being rigged. They want to make sure they have free and fair election. And I remember when he came to Chatham House, he was talking about the Osun State election, that the thing was held free and fair. But to my greatest surprise yesterday, just look at the judgment the court brought out, nullify the man and bring the old person in. So I don't know, because if they are telling us they want to make sure they give us a credible election, they want to make sure everything go fair, very free. But with this we saw yesterday, I begin to have a doubt about it. Buhari has promised everybody should go and vote. Vote whom you want. You understand? Let it not be that that thing is another line, another way of pushing us at the front of the war. They're coming behind us to stab us. So I want us to look that area critically, please.
Yeah, Ejiro, let me come in and say this. That I don't think you have anything to worry at all about. The election, as far as the INEC was concerned, was free and fair. And let me tell you, it may surprise you that you may have a good case, a solid case, you yourself, not even election matter, and lose in court. Are you aware of this? It depends on how you prosecute your case, how you present your case, how you defend your case. If you are not able to do justice to your case and you lose, you find that a loser can become the winner. So not only are we planning to win, we're also planning to defend the result. Okay? Okay, and it should not surprise you. Don't forget the fact that Peter Obi was the first governor to ever overturn an election in Nigeria. Before him, no, it was because of him that you now have staggered elections in Nigeria. That guy just doesn't go into an election as naive as you think he's looking. Anybody of us would think he's looking. We are preparing well across all the local government areas of Nigeria, 774 local government areas of Nigeria. Because we know that at the end of the day, you still end up in court, whether we were declared or not. If we were not declared, it means it would have been, given what we believe is happening now, we expect to win. So, and once you win, you should be able to defend it. That's the stage 2. This is it's a big process. Even in America, don't forget the fact that also Trump tried to overturn the Biden election by going to court. Okay, and at the end of the day, the court said Biden won. But there was even a closer one. And this thing should not shock us, At the end of, for those who may know and remember, old enough to remember, or interested enough to know, what happened in America after Clinton handed over was even terrible by our own sort of the way we see things. Because Clinton's vice president, and who was the president candidate for the Democrats at that time, Al Gore, won the popular votes, won the election. George Bush, who had been governor of Texas, came second, but eventually became the president because he was down to Florida. And you know what happened in Florida? George Bush's brother, younger brother, was the governor of Florida. So you had this funny stuff about hanging Chad and non-hanging Chad. Some results were cancelled and all of that. But by the time they finished all the gerrymandering and whatever it was they did, a different result was announced, and Bush was sworn in as the president. Al Gore didn't contest any further. He just left it at that. Closer, just a few years ago, Hillary Clinton, also won more of the votes, but was not declared because of constitutional provisions that she didn't make. So let us not think that that whenever our elections are put to test in court, is the failing or failure of the electoral authority. I still don't believe that, despite what happened in the court yesterday, that INEC failed in Osun. I don't think INEC failed. What happened was that a case was prosecuted, and the appellant, or the person who took the case to court, who took the case to court, won against the defendants. So as simple as that. I didn't have, well, of course, it was based on the election, but it didn't mean that the election was flawed. And that's the court of first instance, I keep saying. Adeleke may still win in Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. We don't know. He's still the governor as we speak.
All right, thank you.
you.
Can we have Mr. Ezechukwu, please?
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yeah, is it Frank?
Yeah, Frank, also, can I make some contribution?
Okay, Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for accepting my call.
Hello?
Hello?
In case they put it on, I thought I heard my name now.
Okay, I am Frank also. I don't know whether you're Frank.
All right, let's, can you please hold on? Let's take Frank's question first.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I am Professor Frank Ozo, a professor of economics. Have been with INEC for 8 years before I went back to the university again. Now, the thing is that during my experience in the commission, electoral commission, and the exposure I got from the conduct of election in the rest of the world, if you look at the law, the constitutional provision, there is nowhere in the whole world the court takes the executive function to make a return, because I think that's where this problem started. The court usurped by itself to make a return, which is actually the primary function of INEC, not the court. Now, it looks whether or not, the court should look at whether or not INEC met substantially the provisions of the extant laws in conducting it. If they don't, you ask them to go and do it back again. But the problem started when INEC becomes the returning officer and apparently assume the right of a returning officer. Even not only assume the right of a returning officer, assume the right of the electorate to voters to elect their own person. The right is for the voters and not the court. What the court should look at whether the empire comply with the substantial rules, extant rules and regulation. If it doesn't comply, you ask them to go and do it again. That's where this problem, this rebuttal, watch in every, like you mentioned, what happened with Bush and his brother. Finally, it's the commission that determines what the result is all about, not the court. If you go to court in the rest of the world, it's the commission, it's not the court. The problem is INEC has led presidents to the court. The court has usurped their powers in making returns. That's where this problem started. Again, if I look at what happened in Osun, as you have analyzed very, very well, I'll commend you on that.
Thank you.
Sincerely speaking, it is not the synchronized or non-synchronized results coming from accreditation result. The result that you rely on is on the ballot papers and the return, the collation, or the from EC8A or from EC8B is. Whether if there is overvoting in such a manner that it can overturn the result, that I think the court should have asked INEC to go back and do the correcting if there is discrepancy in their papers, rather than substituting one with another, removing that and what they think that is the correct and then announcing their own winner. I think that's where the problem is. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think you've actually thrown more light, and especially as a former insider. Thank you for the compliments, by the way. And it won't surprise you to hear, to know that I obviously agree with you. For the wish or the will of the people to be upturned by any court of law cannot be right, and that's why people objected to what happened in Imo State, where somebody who came forth was awarded, in quotes, the governorship of a state. The governor is not my enemy, is not actually his family friend, but he just wouldn't stop me from giving an opinion on that. I don't think it is right for the court to tell the electorate who they elected. There's an electoral umpire whose job it is to do that. And where they have not done that, they should be sort of pointed in the right direction to do the right thing, even if it means a runoff or a rerun in some areas, or indeed in all the areas, of not just some. So I think our courts are presently overreaching its mandate, or whatever the law says. I'm not a lawyer, I could say, but it's not right morally that we, after voting, we'll have 5 judges decide for us who we elected. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can we now take Mr. Zechukwu, please?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Ike.
Yes. Well, I believe that we are all surprised about what is happening in Osun State, because we fought eventually every serious Nigerian fought for these beavers. And unfortunately, it's like those politicians who don't want it, probably the ones seeing it, it's like they're fighting through the courts. Make sure that we don't use it during this election by saying that it has its own faults. That's basically what seems to be happening now. But my question is, what do we think we need to do now to forestall a repeat of what the court is doing in Osun State during the presidential election and during the general elections? What do we do now to make sure this thing does not repeat itself there, the way we are seeing it now? Thank you.
Okay, that was so much. Thank you. There is nothing you can do to stop people who are bent on manipulating a system from doing so, and with enormous resources at their disposal. There's nothing you can do about that. When things are beyond your control, all you do is just to do what you can. And believe me, the right thing will prevail ultimately. I mentioned it earlier, the function of the beavers machine and what our role should be on the 25th of February. And I believe it's 25th of February that we're mostly discussing tonight, because whatever happens on that day will also trickle down to the next set of elections 2 weeks later or so. Ours is to make sure that we have, as Labour Party, our agents in place. And for the voters, I'll say this. Assume the role of the candidate. Mr. Peter is not going to be in all the polling units. The agents will not be enough to checkmate what is going to happen that day. If you're a voter and you're voting for Labour Party and for Mr. Peter, assume that you're him. Monitor the same way your polling unit as he would have monitored. Ensure that no one, you can't come close, because if you're not wearing an INEC approved tag, you cannot come close to the table. But you should have people who are wearing that, and you walk through them and give them the backup to ensure that no one votes without proper accreditation. And this is why I disagree with the suggestion that once you give the 4 last digits of your NIN, then voila, you vote. If you open that up, the people with enormous wallets will buy the election. I don't want that. Let us convince the people who are going to vote, the people who already have their PVCs, to vote for Mr. Peter. That should be the tactics. So let the voting be done the right way, and let the results on that form EC8A that Prof just mentioned a few minutes ago be the one that we take away. Don't forget the fact that as INEC upload the beavers machine, Nigerians are also uploading and circulating results from everywhere on WhatsApp. These days, election results are known once the polling units close. Each polling unit closes and the results are announced. People take pictures and it's circulating all over, trending all over. So we also have copies that we're going to have in our own database, on our own database, with which to compare and match whatever INEC will announce. It's not going to be very easy. In fact, beavers has made it tougher, more difficult to rig an election. In the case of what happened in Osun, if the election was rigged, we will know. The courts will decide. Ultimately, the Supreme Court will decide.
All right, thank you. Mr. Martin, please. Ebwe.
Yes, this is Martins again. My major concern has always been with the INEC, and I'm sure Dan Elumba will back me up. I have always said, if this election is going to be rigged, it's going to be rigged by INEC. But at that point in time, it will be obvious that INEC rigged the election. My question is this: why would INEC, with all the brilliant people there, print 2 different results to 2 different political parties? Why don't you wait till the end of everything? You are sure of everything. Anybody can you print me result? No, we don't have the result here ready. On the final day, the day you're going to announce your election, you print out the result for everybody. Because they are leaving little loopholes to create confusion. And they are the brilliant ones. Thank you.
Martin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Let me still say what I'm saying. Though I've tried to explain why those results differ. I've tried to explain that. Where I think both of us are agreeing is that INEC was too hasty in releasing the first set of results, reports, okay, to APC. Too hasty. If they knew that they hadn't finished synchronizing their report, they ought to have said so, even to the court. Give us more time, we're not ready. They should have said so. But they went ahead to do that and then tried to reverse that by doing what could have been or may have been the right thing. But let me tell you about INEC rigging in any election in Nigeria, in a country like Nigeria. INEC is an independent electoral commission in name, independent. It is actually not independent as we'd like to see it be. The executive somehow still holds the purse strings and controls INEC. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. Part of why I say that I trust this INEC and that I believe this election will be free and fair. And Martin, it's very dangerous to even begin to suggest that the election will not be free and fair, because by doing so, we are losing votes. Why would anybody go out of their way to vote for P2B if they feel it's a waste of time anyway? So it's very dangerous playing that game. It's not a game for you. You're just being honest and what you're saying. And what I'm doing is not a game, it's what I believe. I am telling the people, get out there to vote for real change. Your result will count and will matter. And I'm not saying it because I don't mean it or it's the right thing to say. I mean it. I believe this president wants a great legacy in leaving Nigerians and office with a free and fair election. I believe that. If I felt this president was going to manipulate the system, I'll tell you that I don't trust. I won't trust INEC. I trust Professor Yakub Mahmoud. I trust President Buhari on this one. Even if I don't trust him anywhere on anything else, on this one I trust him. I believe this election will be free. It will be fair. Let whoever Nigerians want be the next president. Let's not try and begin to disillusion. Already we have voter apathy, and we're saying, oh, you won't. I don't trust INEC. If you don't trust INEC, then that means there's no point in voting now. Then we'll still be in the same mess. I trust INEC. Go and vote. Get your PVC and vote. P2B will be president.
Ben, I agree with you. I trust INEC, but my problem is this. If we trust INEC so much, and INEC folks are so, they know what they are doing, did it not occur somebody that you have not finished collecting the election, your ballot? Why print out a result? That's my, nobody has answered that question. Why did they print that first result?
No. You're looking at different things. Maybe that's where the confusion is coming from for you. At the time INEC announced the result, they knew the result. The forms, they knew. It was collated. The ECHAs were all collated, tabulated, and announced. The result was known. So there's no controversy there. Where you are getting, that's my belief, where I think you're getting it wrong, is that there's a difference between the result that was announced and yet getting documentary evidence to back up what they announced. This will take time to collate, to synchronize. You understand? The problem was that INEC ought not to have released two different sets of reports. Because the moment you do that and they are conflicting, then which one will the court rely on? And it is now down to the lawyers, whichever set of lawyers able to make a case for their client wins.
Plus, Ben, we are saying the same thing.
Plus,
so
if anything else
how do we prevent them from doing the same thing on the 25th? That's my point.
That's the lesson we're taking from this, to make sure it doesn't happen.
So who's going to force them to make sure that it doesn't happen?
No, you don't force them. They have already seen it. INEC is being ridiculed by you, by many people. They've seen it themselves, so you don't have to force them. So if they say they want to do a credible election, That is part of that credibility to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's why I say election is a process, not a one-day event. There's a pre-election process, there's an election day process, there's a post-election day process. Where they fail to get it right is in managing the post-election day process. And that's why a lot of people are now concerned and worried. I am not.
Okay, thanks. So I was thinking they are too brilliant that they will be able to get it right the first time.
No, you see, these things happen, and we learn every day from processes. I mean, why are issues put to test in court? Just to learn from it. A judgment is given. A judgment forms a precedent, and that forms part of future judgments. So the mere fact that there's a failing of a process, it just doesn't mean that process should be thrown out, because no process is ever perfect in any climate, anywhere in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Prince, please. Urum.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, Chief Etiaba. Thank you for such a great insight, and thank you, Professor Frank, and all the previous speakers. I'm just going to make comments on two issues. You see, on the issue of, to start with Osun State, we at POSN, we had a team on the ground. Even 2 months before the election, we paid them, they stayed there in all the local government. On the election day, we had boots on the ground, cut across Osun State. And when the results came out, we were in surprise because of the signal we were getting already, because of who Adeleke was and having been denied the same position, and also the brother as well. But what I think we should also be looking at are the people who want to keep Nigerian the same. Are they not trying to build a sort of precedence in law whereby we can start referring to like synchronized and unsynchronized results per se, where you have 1 or 2 results? So that's one issue I want us to have in the back of our mind. Don't you think they're trying to create a precedent that will be used later on in future? Then the second thing is someone was speaking about what we actually need to do. I know that POSN, we had a lot of lessons from that election. So our strategy team, they went back, they built an election monitoring app, which is an operational app, and it has been adopted by the Labour Party and the presidential, the PCC. So this election monitoring app, I will advise everybody to download it. Basically, it has everything you need to make every report to capture the results on election day. So whatever you see, you can just snap it. It works on smartphone. I hope the Labour Party will be able maybe to get people on ground enough smartphone to use on that day. But I think the election monitoring app is just a killer that will help. Thank you very much. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Prince Will, and I appreciate the fact that you guys have been working hard up before now. I'm sort of encouraged by that. Every party will try to take advantage, play to their strength in any given situation, and every election is a standalone election. The Osun election and what is being tested now in court, or has been tested in court, is a standalone thing. All we can do is to learn lessons from it, and to ensure that we don't fall foul of any part of the process, and that we're able to defend any result in court, because it will, like I said, it will end up in court based on sort of what we're putting on ground now. Thank you.
All right, finally, Mazi Peter Okorafa, please. I think Chima is back, actually. Chima, back to your job, but let's take Mazi Peter Okorafa.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Peter.
Okay. Sorry I joined lately, but I have patiently listened to get the direction of the discussion. First of all, we must commend INEC. One should understand that INEC is operated by human beings. They are not imported from outside space. And a lot of those people working out there have inclinations towards one party or candidate or the other. They are not really neutral as we think. And the important thing there to note is that they are under severe pressure with Mr. President's commitment to have a free and fair electoral process enshrined in our institution, they are experiencing tough challenges to realign with Mr. President's directive, going by the fact that the powers that be in the political party system wants to hold sway to power. For the case of Osun, the question remains this. INEC was there, the ruling party was there, the opposition party was there. The greater bulk of pressures and power display came from the ruling party, APC. I remember vividly, Tinubu was around during that election, APC ministers, APC governors, sitting governors. And INEC is an institution, so to say, under the supervision of the president. That's a party in power. But they were able to wither that pressure, that whole lot of pressure, to declare PDP or Adeleke winner. And going forward, it's expected that the APC hawks or power mongers would want to do anything to upturn that process because it doesn't give them an advantage in the incoming presidential election, losing some of its stronghold in terms of state control. So what you have, INEC coming out with one report before the other, I think it's a manipulated tendency to try to reclaim their stronghold to power. Anybody in INEC could be manipulated or pressured to do what they did because after the election, there was severe pressure not to even release the results. But the president stood his ground, announced the results. And some people didn't like it. I knew that they would go extra mile to want to upturn that process. And that's what we're experiencing. Going behind the scene to manipulate the system to get what they call INEC results. It happened in Abia State. There's a case going on now between, within, it's an intra-party affair, one named Menike and Uchoga. Both of them are claiming to have been supervised by INEC. One is state INEC, the other is federal INEC, and both are admissible in court. A whole lot of confusion. All the allegations is on INEC. So how do you separate state INEC and federal INEC? That's created a very big constitutional problem. So what is there is this. They are under severe pressure by power mongers. And most of the people, let me calm down, please. Most of the people within the INEC system are not really neutral by virtue of the fact that INEC is an empire. They have inclinations. If you watch last time, one woman they call Loretta, who is a card-carrying member of the APC, was pressured to be included as INEC federal commissioner. Nigerians rose and said no. Most of the people that you even bring along and they come and act as lecturers or professors from institution to the INEC returning officers, commissioners, have political party inclinations. So these are the problem. It is the people, not the institution. Because they are not the people that come with interest already. They come with taking sides. So when they go there, they try to enforce it. Until we begin to know how to get INEC deal with people that are not apolitical, you will still have these problems playing out here and there. My second point and observation is this. What has transpired in Osun is to the credit of P2B and Labour Party. Because you wouldn't understand these gray areas going by the principles or the content of the new Electoral Act. A lot of us don't even know what it says. They don't understand the import of the content of the new Electoral Act, which education is necessary as we go into the game, election proper. People ought to be aware of the content of the Electoral Act. And the most important instrument in this election process is the party agents. The politics is going on now. Party agents. INEC is playing politics with the server, or individuals who are working with INEC for other parties are playing politics with the server, the portal, for the party agents. By the time they rule it out, you find that the people you think are supposed to be agents from INEC you submitted, they are not there, they won't make the list. Because the agents are now the instrument to checkmate these things happening at the polling units. And they know it. And they're already working towards to frustrate some political party lists. Last election in Abia State, there was the allegation that the party chairman worked for PDP against APC. How did he do it? He took entire agents of the party from the PDP on behalf of the APC party and submitted. So the APC didn't know that the agents that their own party chairman submitted was as a result of bribe offer from the ruling party PDP. So you see two agents, all of them from the same party, collaborated and then falsified results in so many polling units. That's what they're going to do again at the federal level. So we have to educate ourselves on their technicalities, what they're likely to do, and make sure that the agents that will come, that we submitted to come to polling units across the country are intact. They are intact. If you miss it, they will put their own agent in place of your own party in the portal, roll it out, and then you have collaborations at the polling unit against you. They rig you from foundation. So we need a lot of education, enlightenment on our people. If you don't understand it, you won't know the tactics that will be deployed. These issues have raised in several fora. Watch them now as you submit your party agents. They will frustrate you by making sure the right people you sent, you trust, do not come out. And if that happens, you already read that. Because if they accredit you through beavers, when you vote, nobody knows, no electronic device knows the party you voted for. So it will be a physical thing on the ground. They can divert that result if there is no agent to themselves. So going forward, we need massive education with a few weeks left for our people to understand the rigging antics. As for the president, he has done all he would do by making sure that the electoral act is signed. It's for us to preserve it and protect it, and not to be blaming it because the people, they are human beings. What we do is we go in there and fight the battle there. My submission.
Okay, thank you, Mazi Okorafo. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. Now, I agree with you, and you confirmed my earlier assertion that election can be rigged before the voting day. There is not a one-day process. Okay, there's a process before the actual election. What you said about party agents is very, very, very key. Very, very, very key. But you can forestall that. When you upload party agents on INEC portal, you can actually view. You have the viewing rights to see who has been uploaded. And if at that point, the wrong people are not uploaded, or the right people are not uploaded and the wrong people are uploaded, you can object and correct it. If you leave it like that, once the printouts are done, you get what you get. But you cannot control political parties buying up agents of a different party. It happens all the time, and buying up their tags. Some of these political parties are in this to make money. It's a business for them. They are not there to produce the president of Nigeria. And part of what they do is that they upload their agents and sell, quite frankly, the agents to more serious parties who have the resources to buy. That's why I say, I believe this, well, part of why I say this election will be free, the best election. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be the best so far. Look at the actions of the president. And I told you that INEC can be compromised, but not compromised without, if the president of the day decides to do the right thing. If you do that, he's still in power, you go to jail, okay? Now, if you look at some of the policies in place at this point in time, there's hardly going to be much money with which to do all those silly things that they're used to, buying up other party agents. There's not much cash flowing around. And watch this. I said it 3 times, the rallies from now. You'll find that all those big arena they're used to filling, the big parties, will not happen anymore. They are going to choose smaller venues, easier to mobilize, because there is nowhere they are going to be having all that 1,000 naira anymore in cash to give out to people who come to attend those rallies. And you cannot transfer 1,000 naira to accounts of if you have 50,000 people in a small venue, or 20,000 people in a small venue. You transfer 1,000 naira to them. You can't do that. You rely on giving them 1,000 cash. There's no free cash now. Personally, if you go to banks now, you find that getting cash out of the system, out of the banks, is difficult. How are they going to fund all those the jamboree that they're used to? Even funding the election is still going to be a problem. That is why you see some candidates who, for this purpose of what I'm saying, shall remain nameless, complaining that policy is targeted at them. Why will it be targeted at you? Labour Party is not complaining, because whenever you go to a Labour Party rally, anybody you see there comes there because they want to see and hear Nigeria's next president. They're not coming there to be paid. Before the Just rally, remember there were many videos trending online of some support groups who went to get money from the party or from the campaign, and they were told there was no money, and they believed that money was given, and money was seized, and a lot of people were calling me saying, "Oh, the rally will flop the next day because you guys haven't shared money you're supposed to share." And I was laughing. We had the biggest outing anybody has ever seen in any rally in Nigeria's political history. In just the next day, no money was given. So when you see people turn up, you saw what happened at Panex Plaza yesterday in Abuja. People just want to hear Mr. Peter Obi give them hope, and they'll turn up to vote without any inducement. Thank God, Mr. President, for all these policies, because that money, all that money, sort of you're used to seeing in bullion vans and all of that, won't be freely available anymore for that purpose. Let everybody go down to the grassroots and campaign. Campaign. If you campaign, people will buy your vision. If they buy it, you win. That's what Mr. Peter Obi is doing. So when my optimism about this election going to be as good as I believe it will be, it's not based on nothing, on thin air. It's based on what I see happening every day. Like Okorafor, like you say, there are so many processes before voting. You've highlighted some of the issues, but I tell you that we know these issues. And that's why it's also good to have people who have contested in elections, seen these things, being part of a campaign team, because you come with some level of exposure and expertise to advise. And we're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you
Peter,
so very much.
Ben, please.
I don't
I'm
know
sorry.
whether we've taken the questions that we sent into the comment. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give this question to Dan Elumba and probably copy, if that's a real acronym, to Ben. I have not seen from all the groups, from the Big Tent to the PCC, any organization that has a hierarchical structure from the top to the chapter level better than POSN. So why are we not concentrating on the POSN to get this job done all the way to the local level, where the ward people, the chapters, they know who their unit, their polling unit coordinators are or monitors are, and then make sure they don't bring in a new person who doesn't represent them. So, but it seems as if for some reason, they are trying to push POSN on the side or meet them halfway or 1/4 way or 3/4 way. My suggestion is it's not too late to get them on board, pursue their angles and get this job done.
Thank you. It's not part of our discussion this evening, but I don't know if our guests will want to respond.
I can actually make a comment on that. I can make a comment.
Please.
Yeah.
Ahead,
what I have to say is simply this, that this campaign, the P2B campaign, is being driven by support groups, of which, from what the last speaker said, POSN probably, from his own assessment, the best of the lot, the strongest of the lot, the most, the widespread, and sort of that trickles down to the grassroots from his own assessment. There are so many support groups involved, and jostling for space. And I'm happy that POSN feeling serious enough and desirous enough to deliver that this is of concern to them. Okay. What I will say is not about POSN, but generally, it is a very, very, very dangerous thing to do. to hand over your political, your campaign. I'm just trying to choose the right word, not to say the wrong thing. To hand over your campaign and your election to one group, strong group, as strong as that group is, it's not a good strategy. As good as it's nothing to do with this support group. The reason why it's not a good strategy is that if you do that, you've lost control. Anything can go wrong. Okay, not in your own case. I'm sure the credibility they can vouch for that. But it is difficult because if, for instance, that group is compromised, or not even compromised, sabotaged, you've already lost the election. So, including the.
I don't think that is my question, Ben. My assertion is co-opting POSN strategy, not giving it to POSN.
Okay.
You already have the structure for you from the national all the way to the chapter level.
Okay.
Why reinvent the wheel?
Oh, okay. I'm not aware that that is happening. I have to, sort of be honest enough to tell you that. I'm not aware that POSN is sidelined and not a part of what is going on now. If that's what you're saying, we can talk off, after this program. We can discuss that and find a way forward to solving it. Yes. So,
but Dan is here. He's the head of POSN. He can tell us what the situation is.
Dan has access. Dan has full access to me, so I can talk to him about it after the program.
Okay.
Yeah. I've not heard of this, and that's why I'm sort of saying the wrong thing, because I'm not aware this was going on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. May I quickly ask whether or not you've taken questions that were sent using the chat platform?
Yeah, I was actually trying to assess the question, but what I find with my camera is that if I do, the camera is not turning.
We'll go off. Oh, okay. Okay. Let me read out the question.
Just read out the question. Okay, it's okay now. I can now get it. So I'll go to chat and see what the questions are. Okay, it's still happening. No, it's still on the side. I can't bend my neck. Can you please read out the question?
Okay. Let me read out the question. I asked earlier when my network was having issues whether it is possible that the general elections will end up in litigation, and you've answered that question. Yeah. Then the next question is from Oge. Oge is asking whether or not the Osun State election, which the result is obtained by the court judgment on the grounds of rigging, shouldn't the second runner-up be considered as the winner, since the two leading parties committed an offense by tampering with the process of a credible election? That is from Oge.
Okay, I think that's a question that is overtaken by events.
Then we have this from Newsband, and
can I finish with the question? Okay, I think what Oge is something that's already overtaken by events because the judgment is there already, and it's something that ought to have been canvassed. If that was her line of thinking, ought to have been canvassed in court. I don't know if the second runner-up was a party to the process. If the second runner-up was not, they ought to have sort of applied while the process was going on, to be joined as an interested party and canvassed that matter. So I think it's just an academic exercise that shouldn't worry us. Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead with the next question.
Okay, the next question here is from Newsband. INEC interpretation following Osun election court case, where accreditation and BVAS is inconsistent with, where accreditation and BVAS is inconsistent with results produced, that results will be thrown out. So the question is, what if PDP or APC bribes an INEC official to produce results favoring Labour Party in a stronghold of Labour Party with such discrepancy? And then he's saying that sometimes elation of victory, people manning the polling units may not understand the game. And then that becomes a malpractice, and such results will be thrown out in courts, I believe, thereby affecting the outcome of the election favoring the PDP or APC. How do we mitigate against such plans?
Okay, first thing is that this is something that is hardly going to happen. And I'll tell you why I say hardly going to happen in enough places to obtain any election, possible victory of Mr. Peter's anticipated victory. Number one, your party agents are there. So if that is going on, they will know that, hey, the result, you're going to announce or you've announced before uploading to Beavers and before signing doesn't tally with the number of accredited voters. It's for the agents to know that and stop it at that level before it's even signed. Okay, and then there's a recount, and they'll find out why that is happening. But even in the event that it happens, this is not a local government election. It's not a council election. How are you going to do this in enough polling units in 774 local government areas of Nigeria to give you the result you want? That's too far-fetched, a conspiracy theory. It's not going to happen. And if it happens at that scale, then it means the system has completely collapsed, and that can't happen. It has never happened before now, and it won't happen. You can't re-get. You see, one of my outings with you, there was an assertion I made, and I stand by it, that you cannot buy a presidential election. You cannot buy yourself victory in a presidential election. It's not possible, even if you're given all the monies in CBN. That Babachir Lawal, the former secretary to the government of the Federation of Nigeria, made this point on Channels TV, and I agree with him. You see, in a presidential election, there are things you can't do because the terrain is too vast for that conspiracy to work. If you bring money to buy a presidential election, in how many polling units can you do that to win? Enough to win. People will pocket your money because at that level, you're giving people money to people you don't know, and that's their own slice of the crooked pie. They'll walk away with the money. Even governorship election, I know quite a lot of people who took money from the parties. I didn't give money because I didn't have any money to give, and those agents pocketed the money. That's why I tell you that the result in Anambra was a credible result, because it reflected the wishes of the masses, not because money didn't exchange hands. Money is exchanged hands. People pocketed the money, and the result was the result anyway. So there are things that we shouldn't worry ourselves. Otherwise, you end up having sleepless nights worrying about things that wouldn't exist. It can't happen in the presidential election. In your stronghold, you try to sort of do funny things, but in how many places will be your stronghold that you can continue doing it enough to win if you're unpopular? Go and campaign. That's the thing. Sell yourself to the people. Peter Obi is going around campaigning, selling himself to the people, and the result will shock the so-called big parties with structures. Any other question?
Yes, let me ask this final question from me, and then if there are no more questions from our audience, we will now end the live session. So, and this question is not designed to dampen the morale going into the elections. It's also not designed to impeach the integrity of INEC. It's also not designed to counteract the confidence you've expressed in the system, but as a way to point directions as to where people should look at and maybe perhaps block things that are happening. Let's start with CVR, for instance. INEC, before the CVR exercise, says it has acquired technology that will make it impossible, nearly impossible, to onboard fake registrants. It says that the technology it's importing will make it difficult for you to onboard fake registrants because the picture captures data of live people. That's why sometimes you may have to blink for the CVR data machine to capture you. Unfortunately, like we saw in the Omuma Magic, and then that we saw in the voter register that was displayed, that fake registrants and underage registrants, we have found a way to bypass that system. The second point is the ABIS, Automated Biometric Identification System, which INEC's Commissioner for Voter Education, Festus Okoye, says that this is an intelligent software that they run all the registration data through, and then the software identifies fake registrants, underage registrants, and then multiple registrants, and then weed them out through processes of accreditation. One is that the software will do its job, and then the software, after doing its job, they will subject it to a second degree of confidence building. Again, we saw from the voter register that was displayed that the Beavers and the ABIS rather did not capture all, that indeed the machine failed to account for several incidences of underage and fake voters that are on the register. That's that on the ABIS. Then the third system is that when the actual data was released, according to INEC, 1.78 million Nigerians from the nearly 12 million Nigerians who applied for either fresh registration or transfer or replacement of lost PVCs between June 2021 to July 2022, that out of 2.78 million, 49.3% of those are coming from two regions, the Southeast and the South-South. Now, there was a national rejection average rate of 22%. And then for the 3 zones in the north, the northwest, the northeast, and the north central, plus the southwest, the rejection rate was an average of 17%, 17.2%. But for the southeast and the south-south, the average rejection rate for these 2 regions were 35.2%. And if you do a quick scan at the voter register, there is no region in Nigeria where you will not find underage voters. But what we found from the ABIS invalidation data is that the region with the highest preponderance of underage voters had the least invalidation rates, whereas the region with the least of these had the highest invalidation rates, suggesting that the ABIS may not be working as efficiently as advertised. Furthermore, on the voter register, INEC said it had further cleaned up the register by removing additional 53,000 names. As of today, there is enough evidence that suggests that there is still fake registrants and underage registrants on the voter register. We don't know as to what extent it might impact the elections, because we don't know what the difference of the margin would be, and we don't know the exact number of underage and fake registrants on the register. But it could mean that underage registrants and fake registrants can possibly decide 2023. So looking at all these systems, the data capturing device you said will not get on fake voters. It didn't work as advertised. 2, the ABIS didn't work as advertised. 3, the voter register didn't work as advertised. Today, the judgment coming from Osun is suggesting that the beavers may not be working as advertised. Is the Labour Party and the PCC, of which you're a prominent member of, aware of all these challenges? And is it doing a pre-election in systems on subjecting these systems and processes to integrity tests before the election? Or is its adopted strategy to exude confidence as a way to inspire its voters? And then possibly whatever happens after the elections, we will see. So draw the line between what we've seen with INEC systems and the confidence that the PCC is exuding.
Okay, I have not been mandated to speak for the PCC tonight on this, but I can tell you what my own position, which I'm quite happy to say anyway. INEC register will not be 100% foolproof or correct as displayed. I remember that Ikengo Gochinyere took on a particular word, I think that was Hoku's Anima's word, and reeled out quite a number of disturbing facts with the register. I have no doubt, as much as I tell you that I believe that this election will be free and fair, I have no doubt that the electoral register will not be 100% correct. In fact, may not even be 90% correct, may not even be 80% correct. So if that be the case, why then am I exuding such confidence that the election will be free and fair? Those registrations were captured by Nigerians and who are prone to doing the wrong things, even when the right things will serve better. Why I am confident about the credibility of an election that has not held yet is because on that day of the election, there will be many rejections of voters turning up to vote. You see here, from my experience in Anambra, in my own polling unit, for instance, as much as 5% of people who turned up could not vote because they could not get the accreditation. Beavers could not accredit them. You see all these people registering with the same picture, 100 names, and all of that, politicians believing it will still be business as usual, or that you can buy, if you buy any PVC, it's a waste of, we're just wasting your money. You can't use it. Christian, if I take your PVC to the polling unit, your own polling unit to vote, I will not vote. Because it will not be, I can never authenticate it. Because of the iris technology you described about in your presentation. And your thumbprint is not the same as mine. All it means is that all these people who are getting registered in fake ways will not be able to vote. It's as simple as that. Our confidence is in knowing that we're selling the vision of Mr. P2B to the people. He's selling it himself. That of the people who will be accredited to vote on that day, A majority of them will vote for him. That's what we're banking on. We're not worried about people who will be rejected. It will happen because a lot of people are buying PVCs or registering the wrong people, registering dead people, foreign names, fake pictures. It won't work. Beavers will not accredit them that day. Find out what happened in Anambra. A lot of people turned up, they could not vote. Some people who registered legitimately had to do it a few times before the thing captured them and accredited them. Then they could go. Even Posoludo, who won eventually, I think initially couldn't. The accreditation of his own had issues but because he knew it was him, he persevered and Beavers worked. So Beavers will not capture any fake registration. That's the thing you have to bear in mind. And that's part of why I believe the system will work. And Beavers has not failed in court. It did not fail. There was a professor that spoke earlier who used to work in INEC. He said it. Beavers did not fail. What happened was that from EC8As, the result sheets were uploaded. Okay? Where I think INEC got it wrong, what I believe happened, I was not in court, just what I believe happened, was that they were not ready to give a full report. And they issued to APC whatever. Or they know whether it was what they agreed with APC, I don't know. But the synchronized report was the authentic as the first one was authentic though, but incomplete. The synchronized report from INEC, the later one, was more comprehensive and more accurate. It was just the timing was different, and INEC ought to have applied for more time, told the court to give it more time to complete the synchronization before printing the results. That's what I believe happened, and that was why both judges, the judges, had to decide on which of the two reports was the one to rely on and why they relied on it. You see, a judge can even get angry and rely on a report in their own judgment. Any report they choose to rely on, not because the other one is wrong, but even to teach a lesson to INEC that produced it. You don't waste the time of the court. If you know you're not ready, tell them. They'll give you more time. The court is always reasonable to seeking justice. But if you rush and produce a report, you can't tell the judge, "Oh, can I withdraw that report?" when it's already admitted in court, and I have a better one, a sweeter one. Now let's use on. This one is fleshier, is fatter. No, the court doesn't. The court of law doesn't work that way. That's why I said earlier, you can have a good case and mess it up, and have a bad one and win. Christian.
Thank you so very much for that. There are 3 hands up, and then I will take them according to how it's on my phone here. We have first rank Pan Junior, we have Fejiro, and then lastly we have Mazipito Korafo. I don't know if Mazipito Korafo's hand that is still up is the one that was raised earlier, or if he wants to make another point. So, but each of these participants will have 2 minutes to make their questions or contributions. So, Rank Palm Junior, could you please unmute your microphone and make your contribution or ask your question?
Thank you very much, Christian. My name is still Rank Palm Junior, the spokesperson for the Southern and Middle Belt Alliance. I'm from Jos in Plateau State. Recently, I've noticed as I was going round to some of the collection centers for PVCs. I noticed there are people who have come to collect, but are unable to do so. And INEC will probably tell them, well, we can't see us now, or probably check another center. And then at the end of the day, quite a number of them just go back home. And the numbers are growing. My question here is there a way we could have a platform or something to know the number in case it is big enough? How dispersed are they, and can we help? Secondly, in Plateau State, there are about 7 local governments where about 102 communities have been sacked. And the people who sacked them are residing there. Those communities have polling units. And going by what went during the last election, INEC will still honor those polling units. Will that be fair? Is there a way we could raise a cry that is apart from Kaduna, Southern Kaduna, and the communities? 102 precisely in Plateau, and more being faced with the same problem as we speak. Is there a way we could bring that to the knowledge of INEC and see if there's a possibility of checking while the militia who sacked the indigenous people from those communities are still allowed to vote? Bear in mind that most of these people, according to the federal government, are not Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. First of all, I'll say thank you so much for the great work you guys are doing in the Middle Belt. What happened in Jos last week was unprecedented. So we'll continue to appreciate you guys. And these things don't happen by accident. These things happen as a result of the good work people like you have put in so far. So the result is glaring. Unfortunately, life is not too fair. And, you know, as much as we'd like to see take decisions emotionally, sentimentally, and the right decisions as a result of those, the reality is that INEC will conduct elections anywhere there's a polling unit and it's safe for them to do so. That's the first one. The second one is that when they turn up to conduct the elections in those places, it is the people who are...
Don't offend our distinguished guest. Before you continue, could you have gotten a request that your camera may not be appropriately placed? Could you flip it and see if we can get a better view?
I'm getting the wrong one. Is it better now?
No, from my own end, it's.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Yes, this is better. This is better.
Yeah,
please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
This was the way it was initially, and I was told to turn it, and I did. Okay, so unfortunately, what INEC would do on election day would be to turn up and sort of accredit the people who are registered to vote in those polling units and who have their PVCs. INEC will not have any way of determining if those people are settlers or indigents, unfortunately. But part of why we have to go out of our way to elect Mr. Peter Obi next is that we have a lot of communities sacked by bandits. We have a lot of our people living in various camps, IDPs. I pray that those people who are there may have been registered there to vote there on election day. But irrespective of that, Nigerians will never be free if our people, doesn't matter which tribe, doesn't matter which zone, are still displaced from their homes. For as long as we have one displaced Nigerian unfairly, we're not free yet. So as much as we'd not like to see people who are settlers voting in a particular place, if they have been captured in those units and registered to vote, unfortunately they will vote, and their votes may not go the way we think, or we would like them to vote. That's we take the rough with the smooth. But our prayer is that we're able to get enough votes overall to win, and then to begin to deal with this issue of bandits, this issue of displacements, and getting our people back to their homes. Thank you, Ram.
Most welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have just one hand for Fejiro. Could you please take the floor and make your contributions or ask your questions? 2 minutes. Hello, Fejiro, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. And, I heard everybody, and then I want to say something. I have said this thing before. And this, our brother, is chartered accountant, made us to understand that we shouldn't worry. And there's another thing I saw on the browser that people have this baby face PVC. So many of them. They discover some area where some people have 10 years old. The face is there, but the years is higher than the face. But when you're looking at the face, you know that this one is a baby. You know, like the video that is leaking out, audios and all saying Tinubu want to buy the polling unit and every other things. We know Buhari has promised us that he want to give us free and fair election. I always say, you know, Nigeria things, it get as they be, my brother. Nigeria, they are very, most of our things there, we are very trickish. Buhari can use this word now to push us forward, knowing fully that he want to give this thing to Tinubu. Because according to the story, that Tinubu sponsored him to be in that position. And I believe and I know obedient are very, very smart people. They are very, very smart. Thank God for God, this is era of young people, not old people any longer. And this, we have another website and apps to monitor the election. I was able to call people I know back home in Nigeria. I was able to tell them, please, oh, if you don't vote for Obi, do not call me. Because there's a video that come up that at least we should inform if it is 3 people you can tell to vote. I made them to understand. Even it come to a time when they were registering this PVC, and many of them, I say, if you don't have your PVC, don't ask me for money. And many of them were able to get the PVC because they need that small money I'm giving out. And now it comes to the area of voting now. You know, you may tell somebody, do this. They will do another one. One example, if Nigerian people are looking for money from us, they're quick to call you. Brother, please, oh, sister, see you. As soon as you give them the money, for them to call you back and tell you thank you, is another different case. Now we drive it back now to this voting. We might lead the horse to the river, but we cannot force the horse to drink the water. This is a prayer answer that God bring Obi. We should not forget, be you Muslim, be you Christian, or pagan, or whatever you call yourself, whatever religion you feel, you believe. Let us put this thing into prayer to that particular God that we are calling, that everything should go well with us. That is the most important thing, because anything outside the gods, it won't work. You know the system of Nigeria. You and I know, we grow up there.
Pedro,
we still
for
live
once
there.
of time,
It's our
for your
blood.
contribution.
So
And
please
then,
let us try to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pedro. Chief, as you are reacting to this will be our last question for the day. I will see more questions coming up. I see other hands up. Unfortunately, we've overshot this program by a factor of 1 hour, 1 minute. It was supposed to end by 10. It's now past 11. Please, we'll not take more questions. Could you please make your closing remarks as we try to round up the program, sir?
Okay, I think Ejiro's one was more like comments rather than questions. But my overall closing remarks would be that we shouldn't panic too much. You know, if we panic and instill fear in the minds of the voters, it will backfire. If we can inspire confidence, and I don't mean confidence based on falsehood, because I don't engage in falsehood. I'll never do that for politics. The confidence that I exude, I believe, is informed, because I know that nothing in life is perfect. The upcoming election will not be perfect, but I believe it will be the best presidential election so far. Let us not be too worried about a particular candidate who everybody keeps mentioning. I don't know why people are so scared of him. If he was so infallible, then he wouldn't have, the APC wouldn't have had to go to court to begging the court to overturn the result of an election. They would have won it anyway, or done whatever they needed to do. So I'm not worried about those things. All we need, the election is Peter Obi's election to lose. And Peter Obi is a dogged fighter, very, very dogged fighter. a brave warrior. And we have to follow the leader. And if we follow him and contribute as much as he's doing, all of us in our own spheres of influence, he will win. And believe me, when he wins, Nigerians would have won. Democracy is for the people. And for the first time, the people will matter in electing the next president. The people will matter in the way the government will run. People will matter in the dividends that will accrue. If you want to know that this is not about P2B and that P2B is actually a hostage, P2B has been kidnapped by the masses, is that if he does the wrong thing and he cannot afford to do the wrong thing, he will not be free to walk around the streets of Nigeria. Think about it. Scary. If he does the wrong things, he will not be free to walk around the streets of London or anywhere else in the world where you have Nigerians. He is there. He has sacrificed himself for us. Let us respect that. And the least we can do is to support him to birth a new Nigeria, which I believe is possible, which I believe is coming. Let's all be a part of it. And let's stop instilling fears or entertaining all manner of fears that may not be existing. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Chief Ben Iteba, FCA, a chartered accountant and governorship candidate of the AA in the Anambra 2021 governorship elections. We've been discussing implications of Osun elections, Petition Tribunal judgment on the 2023 elections. Our principal discussant and guests had done justice to the topic. We also thank our in-house guests here on Zoom, and then those who joined us live on Facebook and on YouTube, where this conversation is being streamed live. We thank you so much for participating, and we invite you to join us in our next episode of the series of Judgement Television. We will continue to count down until February 25, and then continue to follow it up after that to bring you up-to-date analysis on the trends and topical issues going into the 2023 elections. Once again, thank you so very much for being a part of this.